Coming up next on Salina Media Connection, Callie Barnett met with voters Thursday, September 26, 2019, during a forum organized by the Ellsworth County Democrats at the Hijinks Rec Club in Ellsworth, Kansas. Barnett is a Democrat running to represent the Kansas 1st Congressional District in the U.S. House of Representatives. Her presentation lasts about 50 minutes.
Back in February or March, I think. January, and just introduced herself, and I was like, hey, if you're ever coming through town, I'd love to just say hi to you. And she kind of hails from Garden City. She'll explain how she's splitting time, but I think her original home is Garden City, and she spends a lot of time there. So of course she has to go through Ellsworth a lot. So there's been a couple times when I've had the chance for her to stop in, and I just always enjoy her energy and enthusiasm and just fresh perspective. So I guess that would be my introduction. Callie Barnett, please.
Patrick and I spoke a little while on the phone yesterday, and he was like, yeah, how you doing? And I was like, well, I really feel like Patrick is one of the biggest reasons why I didn't run away from this idea. Because when I sent out an email to all the county chairs and things like that, Patrick was the one who responded and was like, well, this is the surprise of the day, or something like that, and was like, hey, I'd love to meet you. And I'd actually gone to the Capitol, met a few people there, stopped in Ellsworth here down the street, and Patrick was like, yeah, we've been really thinking about who we want as a candidate, and it's just really crazy because you're right here. And I was like, really? This is fantastic, thank you. So I definitely feel like in a lot of ways it's extremely exciting what I'm doing. Because I openly have not been a part of this process. I've had a completely different life and things that I'm fighting for. Sometimes I feel like when I come to these events, I'm just like an alien from outer space, and I'm beep boop, I'm Callie Barnett, and people have not heard of me, and they might be a little bit scared, but hopefully mostly excited and really drawn to what they hear and what they see, which is exciting. So I grew up in Garden City, Kansas, and my family are wheat farmers, and you know, small town Kansas, our diversity, everything is such a big part of who I am and who I want to fight for. My entire life I was a performer and have been a performer, and so I started out at 5 years old in front of a big stage, wearing my nice church dress, singing, "If I were a butterfly, thank the Lord for giving me wings." And I just knew, even at that moment, I was like, oh, this is where I belong. I belong in front of people. And I learned really quickly that my voice was just a positive vehicle and well, hopefully could be positive, and a way that I could really just bring joy to people's lives, and myself included. So I did lots and lots of performing. My dad and I growing up, he would wake me up on Saturday mornings and would just say, like, come on, Callie, let's go sing some places. And so we'd go into rest homes and community centers and different churches that we didn't even announce that we were coming. We would just walk in and say, does anybody want to sing? And they'd be like, yeah, let's do this. And so I'm looking forward to being able to have those experiences in this campaign also. In high school is when I really, just found my love for performing. And in college, I went to Friends University and actually was going for music theater. And one of my professors pulled me aside and said, hey, Callie, I've watched you. I think you should be a teacher and you'll have a job one day. And I was like, oh, great. And then I taught mostly during the brown bag days. Had a little bit of, different of an experience. But during that time also, I was asked to do the Miss Garden City pageant. And until this experience of running for Congress, I didn't talk about it a lot, other than because of the stigmas that go along with it. And I was just telling Josh that it was like the best politician boot camp that I could have been a part of, because if I could wear the 6.5-inch heels and walk around in a red velvet bikini and get judged and do all the twirls and all those things, and most importantly talk about issues that are really important to me, then it's a win for my life and everything that I'm doing. When I was 17, I'll never forget, my dad and I had started to go around to different weddings. We started performing together, and it was just extremely exciting time in my life. I actually had my eyes on New York City and going to perform there and all those things, and I'll never forget one day in January, my dad and I sang at a wedding together, and I remember when I finished singing the song that he actually chose, it was called A Time for Us. He just looked at me with tears in his eyes and just said, "Callie, you sang really beautiful today," and I had no idea that a few hours later that my dad would pass away. He died from a massive heart attack, and at 17, it was horrific for me and my family. The part of the story that's important for me to tell you is that my father, for most of the farmland that he would farm, was sold a few months before he passed away. A few weeks before before he passed away, my family had to file for bankruptcy, and it was a really difficult time for my family. And I know that it's that experience that killed my dad. It was all the stress. He was 49 years old and so strong and healthy and full of life. And I share that experience because I have been through a lot in my life, and I work very, very hard personally to work through those things and fuel it into a positive change. I know our farmers are going through a lot right now. The trade war, the tariffs, it's criminal in so many ways what's happening to our communities, and I'm fighting for them. One of the biggest things in our campaign that we are fighting for is our farmers. I know that there is a big difference between me being a farmer's daughter, growing up and going to the wheat field and helping out, to being a policymaker. I'm meeting with a lot of different ag professors, getting information, getting ag newsletters, and talking to farmers and learning what it is that is important to you and what I can do to help you in this position. So, in college I told you I started teaching, and I'm so thankful that the professor said, "Callie, you should be a teacher," because it is who I am. It is where I'm happiest. I can take this love of music and passion for people and have these beautiful experiences with children, even though most of my career was giving maracas and noisemakers to 5-year-olds, and sometimes it's noise and sometimes it's beautiful music. But the biggest thing that motivated me to run for Congress is my experience of being a teacher. When I graduated, I was so excited to get in my classroom and make the billboards and everything so beautiful and welcoming for the students. And I, right away, a few months in, started getting emails that said, workforce has to be reduced by 30% by December. Music teacher jobs are on the cut. Start fighting for your job. And so I may have not been a politician, but I learned very quickly at 22 years old what it feels like to fight for something you are so passionate about and ready to do, are paying student loans to do, and also depending on it for the livelihood of yourself and for so many other people, their families. Every single year that I worked in Wichita, which is where most of my career was, every single year I wasn't allowed to get a raise, even though I was getting my master's and all these trainings. Every year I had to pay more and more for my benefits, so every year I was making less money out of pocket. My last year I took on crosswalk duty before and after school, where I was literally stopping cars with my body in the middle of the street. My entire lunch break was me, feeding the children and taking a chicken nugget here and there as I'm passing them out so I can eat. I took on another position called family engagement, and it was just to help pay my bills. And I got my first paycheck, which I'd signed the contracts for months before that moment. And again, my paycheck was less. And I called saying, I don't understand. And they checked it out, called me back and said, Callie, I'm so sorry I bumped you just right into that next tax bracket. So again, I was making less money out of pocket and working so hard. Yesterday I had the chance to go to Kansas City, where the union workers are fighting with the local 31 chapter of the GM workers, and was able to just talk and to a lot of people. Yesterday was the 10th day of the strike. Their workers have lost their health insurance. One of the leaders that I was talking with that was having a really difficult time walking was supposed to have hip surgery the day before and had to cancel because his benefits had ended. We were in a room that was full of food and supplies and baby formula and bug spray, ponchos for the people who are literally out there day and night and rain and sun and all of these elements and fighting for what they deserve. And we need politicians who are going to fight for us. I share a lot of my personal story because I want the word politician to change. I want our people that we elect, especially representatives, to reflect the people and population of who we are. So you know that when you vote for Callie or whoever it is, that it's somebody you can not only sit across the table and have a drink with and talk about your life, that you know that person has been through some of the things that maybe you have or a family member has, and they get it, and they're gonna work really hard for you. So of course the second thing that I'm fighting very hard for is teachers and education. A lot of people say, well, Callie, a lot of that comes from state governments and different things like that. I have a lot of ideas. 2016 was a major wake-up call for me, where I took a pledge with some other women teachers the day after the election results and just said, we have to do more. I had no idea that I would come home one day last September after talking to my therapist about the teacher strikes and how I just knew Kansas was next. And what could I do? And I said out loud, well, there needs to be more teachers in Congress like me, who have been in it for 12 years and are ready to fight. And little did I know I was gonna come home to my fiance, Stephen, that's sitting over there, and say, hey, I figured out the next step in my life. I'm going to run for Congress. So for me, at the federal level with helping teachers, there's so much that we can do and that we need to do. An idea that we have is, instead of a federal minimum wage, we need a federal base salary for teachers. Based off of our cost of living here in our state and our communities. Gone are the days where we can not give a teacher a raise 8 years in a row, 10 years in a row, and then those teachers strike and get a 3.5% raise on a salary that frankly is, should have been twice as much as what it was. So having federal things in place like that are things that we can absolutely do on the federal level. A lot of teachers I've talked to from other states with my travels have said, my students come to school differently than they did 12 years ago. They have all these emotional needs, social needs. I'm doing so much more than just teaching science or reading or math. And we need tools, and there's tools out there that our schools can provide for teachers and for students, curriculums that will help. They're called SEL curriculums, social emotional learning curriculums and things like that, that we need to help our teachers with. This teacher from Georgia that I met said, well, I presented this to my school board, was so excited about this program, and they again and again and again have said, well, we just don't have the money. Imagine if we have programs in place at the federal level that not mandate what we require our teachers to do, but instead incentivize them with things that we can do to help them. I think that would just be a massive place that the federal government could step in and help. So obviously I can talk all night about education. I do want to share the third thing that is really important for all of us. I like to put it all in just one nice little package that says, I'm fighting for Kansans in their everyday lives. There's so many things that go into that, and I realize it, but it's incredibly important. What is happening in our rural communities is we just need help. I went on one of the stops that Lynn Rogers had with a listening tour, in Dodge City a few weeks ago, and people were all laying out the things that we need. And for me, a massive aha as somebody from Garden City, Kansas, that I hadn't connected the dots with, is that Southwest Kansas is the only quadrant in Kansas that does not have a 4-lane highway. And think about what that would do, not only for safety, but 90% of our Western Kansas population has left in the last 100 years. And there's many, many reasons why that is the case. We also, Southwest Kansas does not have a 4-year university. There's things that we need to put in place so we can keep our rural towns thriving. Imagine what infrastructure, something that our current administration said they were going to, really do a lot of at the federal level, and it's not happening. We should have trains that can take us all over. I said to some different people today, and last night we were at another event where they asked where Stephen and I are going over the next couple of days, and they thought about the map, and they're like, oh, you're like the Roomba, that vacuum. You're like the Roomba all over the state of Kansas. You're just here and here and here and bouncing back and forth. And it's because it's what we need to do. But we need to have things in place that really support our Kansans. So one of the things I like to say when supporting taking care of Kansans in their everyday lives is a message of inclusion. As a teacher, I know we've had a lot of things that we say are zero tolerance policies. As somebody who's grown up in Western Kansas, in Southwest Kansas specifically, I am so excited about the culture and the people and the life that I grew up with. I can't imagine my community without it. 2 weeks ago, I went to the Garden City Fiesta. I was a judge for the Miss Garden City Fiesta pageant, which was incredible, and then went to Dodge City and went to their international festival. And it literally just, there's so much food and culture and life, and our people are not feeling safe in this process. So one of the things that we are doing with this campaign is making them feel loved and welcomed and hopefully registered to vote and able to vote and willing to vote. ksvotes.org is a massive way that we can continue to get people excited to vote, easily signed up to vote, and it's honestly changing our Kansas future, in my opinion. It's changing our history. So healthcare is another thing, of course, that's really important to us. For me, our mind, our body, our soul, taking care of our mental health care and providing those opportunities, eliminating food deserts in our rural areas, making sure that the food that we're eating and providing for our children is, of course, safe and healthy, and making sure that we are truly just taking care of people. People ask me a lot about my policy on if we should have Medicare for all, expand Medicaid, and all those things. The thing that I know and that I can wholeheartedly say is that every American, whether you are visiting here, you are working, you are a citizen or not, should be able to walk into a hospital or a healthcare facility and know that they're going to be taken care of, and that they're not going to have to spend the next 10 years paying off medical bills. They shouldn't have to worry about, can my child, am I going to be able to get them food for dinner, or should I take them to the doctor because they need care? I wholeheartedly know that is things that we must do. Yesterday I mentioned we went to the event with the striking union workers. 6% of all working Americans only 6% are represented by unions. And we had a lot of discussions about how unions are the people that are working in the United States, that are working class, need unions. It's not just in factories. It's very much in our rural areas, especially in Kansas, where we need to represent people in the right ways. And unions are a way to do that. Last weekend, I had the incredible opportunity to go to New York and be a part of a climate march. Greta is an incredible human being, 16 years old, from Sweden, that is just literally changing the way that we discuss our world. And I was so proud to be a part of an event. And I want you to know one of the things that we're doing in our campaign is we're doing a high school and a college tour. We're starting in a few weeks. engaging the younger generation of voters, of future voters, in these type of conversations and in these type of movements is, it's so exciting for me. As a teacher, I hope it gets you excited. I know I shared that with a group, which was all teachers last night, and they're like, oh, when are you coming to our school? This is so exciting, because for me, when I go in, I don't even plan to talk about my campaign and what we are doing. It's much more about, hey, this is a real life issue that you are going to face in your lifetime. Let's have some discussions about climate and what we can do. Let's have some discussions about our communities and what we can do to improve them. So that is a really exciting thing we're doing. I get asked a lot about gun responsibility, and for me it's just those two words put together. It's our guns and our responsibility. I understand the necessity for our families to have them. Having a discussion about responsibility and how we keep our community members safe is very, very important. I know I grew up with my dad around guns. He used them on the farm for safety, and it's very, very important. So all of those things are really exciting. I know everybody probably understands that the 1st District of Kansas is very large. We are 63 counties, and it is a lot of the state. For me, I think it's really important that we break the stereotypes around that. I'm excited when I read the newspaper articles and talk to different people, and we've eliminated one really important word in our district. Instead of saying the 1st District, the 1st District of Kansas, which is what I hear, that this is the big first, where it was previously that this was the big red first, or the big red one. And to me, eliminating the red out of that is so important. I'm the first woman Democrat to ever even run in this district. And for me, the decision to run was based off of a lot of reasons of knowing that this blue wave and this change that people need and people see is truly happening right here in Kansas, and especially in western Kansas. So in our campaign, we have a path. We always have to have our path to victory, and I see it and I feel it. I know in rooms like this, I know in classrooms, I know in just so many different ways that we can feel people needing change. A lot of discussions with people that I even call that I've never talked to before are saying, well, you know, I've never thought about even voting for a Democrat, but Callie, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And I agree that I need help with those things, and you know, I like that you're a teacher and you just seem like you get it. So it's really important that we eliminate some of the stigmas around the big first. When we look at our numbers, Sebelius won the 1st district. So we can look at those numbers, and we're really building our field plan around that. And I think everybody just kind of agrees that having a woman, having a teacher and things like that are just people that we can relate to as a candidate. So when we are you know, starting our positive movement for change in our campaign, one of the things that we're really working hard on is our social media. Just like Patrick was saying, hey, make sure you're following us. Follow our Callie Barnett page. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter. Share our page, share it with a friend. Those things are really important for building our outreach, making connections, and really showing our supporters how many people are watching and hearing what we're doing. I mentioned that engaging the younger generation, and especially our immigrant populations, is really important to me. Our treasurer for the campaign is Alejandro Rango Lopez, and Alejandro is an incredible human. In Dodge City in the 2018 elections, Alejandro was such a catalyst for change. The county clerk ended up changing the one polling location outside of the town of Dodge City. Did everybody hear about that? And Alejandro was the one at 18 years old that with the help of the ACLU, you know, sued the county clerk, got some different things in place, and you know, literally changed some history. So I'm excited that Alejandro is a part of our team, and it's just another way for us to show, you know, what voices we are really uplifting in this process. So It's interesting with a federal race, a lot of what happens is we get support from around the country. One of the things that was really important to me as soon as we announced, or I announced and started putting things in place, is that we would run a campaign that's different than any other Democrat or opposing person on the other side of the Republicans has done. And one thing that is crucial for us to reach our numbers is getting national support. In a federal race like this, in a historic race of this kind, where we expect there to be 8 to 10 to 12 Republican people fighting for this seat, right now I'm currently the only Democrat. We'll see if there are more, we don't know. But it is historic. We have experts that are helping us. These experts are working with Bernie and Kamala and Pete Buttigieg, and they are incredible. And I'm honored that they are a part of our team. So it's really, really fantastic. A lot of people ask me, what can I do to help? So social media, as I said before, is one of those things. Every follow, every like, every share really makes a big difference. It gets that algorithm boosted and going, and really helps a lot. One of the biggest things that we all know that helps our campaign is donations. We are trying to raise anywhere from $1 to $3 million. And it's not even that we are trying, we must do that. To win a federal race of this time in 2019, 2020, it's necessary. It is massive. It doesn't get raised in next spring, next summer, and next fall. The thing that I hear from a lot of people is, well, I'm going to see who else is going to run. I'll wait until it gets closer to the primary because that's when you really need it. With federal races, it's a different conversation. I even saw a post earlier today on Instagram from another woman candidate that's running, where she, posted a picture of herself that said, "This is the end of my first quarter of the campaign, and this shows literally on paper if I'm going to be able to get national support or not." The way it works really is that if we can build a good amount of donations, of people, of followers and supporters, then all of the national organizations who I've been meeting with who are watching say, okay, Callie is serious, she's been able to mobilize people, you can tell that there is a pathway for a blue district in the 1st District of Kansas. If we don't show that until next spring or next summer, it's too late. They are all making their decisions now, and they want to see at the end of our first quarter, which is next Monday, how much money we can raise. The goal that they have given me is $50,000. I will tell you we need about 14 more. We're close. We've done a very fantastic job, but we need more. We're doing great. The first month was $25,000. I was incredibly astonished and amazed. Even the night before the very end of that first month, we were $2,200 short, went to bed, woke up, checked our ActBlue account. We had exactly $2,200 in donations from random smaller donations. And Monday, I got a bunch of phone calls from DC saying, okay, Callie, we saw it, good job, now do it again. So when I say they're watching, they are watching. And the pressure is real, but the excitement that comes along with that is just incredible. And I can tell you that is something that I don't believe we have been able to do in the 1st District of Kansas, to get people mobilized and excited on a national level. And so it's incredibly important that we get your support. Just to give you information, at the federal level, the max donation that one person can give is $2,800, $2,800. Obviously, I know that some people can give that, and others, it needs to be, a smaller amount if you are able. A donation of $5, $10, $15, $50 really does make a difference, because they're looking at our information with different things. How many Facebook followers do you have? How many people are making donations? If it's a large amount of people who are donating, especially throughout the district, then it shows our grassroots campaign is real and it's thriving and it's great. Obviously, they're also looking at our number that we are able to raise. One of the ways that you can help is a single donation. A monthly donation that is reoccurring is another way to show that we can have constant income and support for our campaign. It's another way of, if you're not able to make a $250 donation, but you could commit to $50 a month for the next 5 months, then that's another way that is just a massive, massive help for us. So we, on our website, on the palm card that I shared with you, has our website, califorkansas.com. You can donate that way through our actual website. There's also our, we have a P.O. box if there's a check that you want to mail and things like that. I can even help you with my mobile device, or Stephen can help you today if you had a card and you were ready to donate. It really, really matters. I cannot tell you enough how much it matters that we get to that 50,000 by Monday night. It is huge. After next quarter begins, we will be creating lots of events like this. So think about, can I host an event? Can I invite 10 friends who I think might support Cali for Kansas? Because that is another way that we can earn those supporters, and we can continue to build our outreach and of course build support for our campaign. So I'm super excited if you can't tell. I've got the energy. I know we're going to do this, and I truly feel like we are, it's the right time, it's the right place, and we're going to do it. Do you feel it? I do. So I welcome any questions that you have. We can talk for a few minutes, right, Patrick?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
I asked you a question in Hayes some weeks ago, how many Democrats you had contacted and had expressed their support for you. The only name you mentioned at that time was John Carlin. I asked you if you talked to Josh Schwade. Obviously you had. What other name Kansas Democrats are supporting your campaign?
We have Laura Kelly. We have, this question always, I will say, we have lots of support. I'm trying to think of the best way to answer without not completely just giving lots and lots of names and support.
I'd appreciate lots of names.
I know you would. To be honest, I think the conversation needs to be a lot more than what just big names that we have.
Let me toss one out, Janice Lee.
Yes, I've talked to Janice.
Is she supporting you?
Yes,
Kathleen Sebelius.
working on it.
Josh, I can't remember her name. The lady in Salina that helped you a lot in your first campaign. I can't remember.
Shirley Jakes.
Shirley Jakes. Have you talked to her?
No.
You need to go to the chair.
All right.
I'll vouch for that. I'll at least say Callie's been, she goes to all this stuff, and she knows everybody. The endorsements at this stage are harder probably than money to raise. I mean, people, I don't know if you know this, politicians don't always commit very easily, especially if you have a name. So that would be, I mean, not trying to bail her out too much. She's been, I've seen her at Demo Fest, and she's been to Washington Days, and she's been all the, like she said, pulling around. So she knows everybody in the game. She's just working them to help you out.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. For me, it's much more, yes, we have to have our leaders, and yes, I'm tirelessly going around all 63 counties, getting connected to this person, getting connected to this person, getting connected to this person. It's much more about those people, and also about this close to 750,000 people that we have in this district.
You grew up in Garden City and you taught in Wichita. Where do you live now?
I live between Garden City and Manhattan. I have places in both. It's strategic, so I can be back and forth. Mm-hmm. Getting connected to Riley County in that area also is very important.
So Kelly, my question would be, as you do things like this and go around, what's an issue or something that surprised you that comes up a lot, or is there anything that stands out as being a particular concern that you weren't expecting or anything like that so far? Or?
Well, the discussion around guns, of course, is something that has been there and is incredibly necessary. I know the week that we launched was the weekend of the El Paso and several other shootings. And so, of course, how to respond to that appropriately while not being offensive or make people feel, fearful that we're going to take away guns or something like that is something that I've worked really hard to, build a certain language around and knowledge. So working with Moms Demand Action, talking with lots of different folks about, the language that's needed, policy that is out there or needs to be written is certainly something that, I'm also actively working very hard to be knowledgeable about.
Jason's got, you have a question, Jason?
Yeah, I do. You can keep going if you want.
No, go ahead, ask it.
Sure. So one of the issues that played a significant role in the last campaign for the Big First was immigration. At the time, the family separation policy was a big deal that was debated in Salina particularly. But we are seeing unprecedented numbers of asylum seekers. Those on the right would call them illegal immigrants at the border. What would be your proposal of how to deal with that? And what do you think of the Trump administration's solutions thus far?
I mean, that's a great question. And for me, in so many ways, especially being in Southwest Kansas, it's such an emotional issue. I met with the Fort Hays State University Young Dems 2 weeks ago. They're working very hard to help with our campaign. It's very exciting. There was 2 different students that shared a couple of stories that I can't stop thinking about. One was a woman who's getting ready to be married in January, and her best friend was deported with her family a few months ago, and she's the maid of honor in her wedding. And she was just crying and said, I don't know if my friend can even attend the wedding or if I'll even get to see her again. The second part of that question, or the second story of that was a student that's at Fort Hays, came here from Mexico with her family. Her family had to leave. She is here, and she said, the only I'm just getting through school, and to be honest, I feel scared. I feel not welcomed in this country, and I didn't feel that way when I was first here. Friends in Mexico say, what's Kansas like, and what's Fort Hays like, and are you loving school? Do you want to, be there? Are you going to live in Kansas the rest of her life? Should I join you? And she just says, no, don't come. It's not safe, and it's really bad what's happening. After the meeting was over, I gave her a hug, and I said, I'm so sorry that our country is making you feel this way, and you feel this way in Western Kansas. And she said, I know, but I'm staying because of people like you who are trying to make a difference. And for me, I don't have all the answers on all of that. I know what we're doing. The current administration is wrong. I know that we have to create policy that welcomes people like it has since the United States first started. We have to welcome people who are coming and seeking for asylum, and we have to have a path to citizenship for them. In our dairies and our farms, we have to have people who are working. We have to have a way for them to be here and to be able to stay longer than 3 years, and things like that. So I'm working very hard to build better answers for those questions.
So, thanks, Kelly. So I think what my thought on this next phase is there's always a lot of people that would like to ask Kelly a question, but would rather not do it in front of everybody. So I
don't mind.
I know you know. I'm aware of that. But I love Q&A in town hall, but sometimes it just I think I'd like, since I got stuck with the job of being chair, I guess I'm gonna. Well, I'm sure Kelly will stick around, and just if you have questions and you all do, just come and find her. And then also, if you want to just mingle with each other and talk to each other and get caught up, we'll just do that. First of all, thank you, Kelly, for coming and talking.
I'm terrible with names. It's my biggest worst thing. So when you ask me for names on the spot, I cringe.
Cool. So we'll portion of interviewing Callie, but please do not, we're not disbanding or anything. We've got the space for as long as we want to hang out here. So I was just going to say, again, so that just my reminders, we talked about the October 10th candidate forum. Jessica, did you want to say anything on the record? Jessica's running for city council, so vote for her.
Yeah, because I can't be at the forum because my job comes first.
That's true. Okay.
Serving the people of Ellsworth and Russell County.
If you were at the forum, what would you say about running for city council? Anything you have?
I guess like kind of my motto is trust, transparency, and financial sustainability. We want to make sure that we're taking care of our city so that we can live here 10, 20 years down the road. So it's very soon.
Can I address that issue, even though you've already pulled rank on me?
Do we want to vote on it? No. Yeah. Which? Yeah. Sure, Jerry. What's your?
Okay.
Yeah.
I attended the Czech Festival and listened to Jerry Moran. He was talking about health care. His concern for health care seemed to be primarily for World War II veterans, Korean veterans, the elderly. To me, from my perspective, our greatest, and he wanted people to come back to the big first, by the way. He wanted people to come back to Western Kansas, not leave, come back, not leave. He didn't mention young people. Young people, we're cannibalizing our young with education costs, child care costs, and health care costs. They're eating them alive with these costs. What are you going to do about that?
We're back here.
I was just taking notes. I was listening. What am I going to do for that? We have to have more solutions. It's one of the biggest things that people were talking about in the needs of rural Kansas. I know in Garden City they've closed down a lot of child care facilities. We have to get more people to stay in our communities and thrive in our communities. We have so many vacancies between our schools, our hospitals, and our businesses that are closing. Healthcare costs, child care facilities, we have to fund them. We can't allow facilities to close, and we have to continue to mobilize the working class of people to be able to provide those jobs and those facilities.
What are you going to do about drug costs? Drug costs are killing people.
They are.
So what's your plan? You said you had a plan. You were going to fight it. Tell me what your plan is, or how you're going to fight it.
Patrick, do you want to open up to the group?
Well, no, I really do. I mean, I like the question, but it's just better to keep moving on and everything, and ask Jerry offline.
Okay, one closing comment. You're not always going to have a friendly audience.
I know.
And Jerry's friendly, by the way.
Jerry does this to everyone, so it's not unique to you at all. But yeah, no,
You're going to have to be more aggressive.
All right.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the Jerry camp because national level we have all these people who want to be president, and they on the Democrat side, and they've got several different plans. And I think you're probably going to have to sort out through there one of those
Of course,
that you like, and that maybe this constituency out here can buy into, so that when somebody like this steps forward and says, "What's your plan?" This is it, and you can tweak it or whatever. But this is where I am on this issue, because
Absolutely.
I don't know where you are. I don't know if you're Elizabeth Warren or you're Joe Biden. I'm concerned about that, mainly because of just an issue I had this last week. I have a 34-year-old niece who had a double mastectomy Friday afternoon. Supposedly had great insurance. She had it all checked out. She buttons up stuff, and she went into that thinking she had it all taken care of. At 7 in the morning, they walk in and said, "You have to leave the hospital. Your coverage is done." And within an hour, she's in the car coming home. Within just hours after major surgery. And I've personally had it with our healthcare system. I've had it. And I want that kind of emotion coming out of my candidate. And I think you have it, because you've gone through a lot, but you got to be able to pound the table and say, look.
I think it's important to listen to the old guard, and truly, and especially on the immigration thing. For me, you should be able to punch it back in the face on that, especially how important.
Verbally.
Sure, metaphorically, but especially how important illegal immigration has been to your community in particular. I mean, it was a campaign issue. Donald Trump came out down those stairs when he announced his fake running for the presidency. And he took that issue, right? We all know you're murderous and you're rapist. It's gone from there. You gotta fight. I mean, you really have to punch back on that, and don't be afraid. You can't waffle it. You have to be right at it.
Yeah.
In my opinion, obviously.
I appreciate that.
And there's a great guard here of Democrats who've been here, obviously.
Well,
Better really well.
He's absolutely right. We watched this thing. I've got a son who's taught out liberal for 13 years. Last year, in his classroom, he starts the day out and there's kids whimpering in the classroom. Half a dozen kids whimpering. And he goes, what's wrong? ICE came through last night and they took the parents. And the kids are left and people picked up the slack. What kind of a country is this?
Well, I see it at our high school. There was a bang went off in the band room. And I'm the little girl's next class. She comes in, she was shaking because she was scared somebody come into the school with a gun. And that's Ellsworth, Kansas. I mean, there's real, it happened. There was a loud bang in my room the other day, and one of the kids all jumped. They thought something was happening. So it isn't like it's just the cities this is happening. And I think there has to be something where you connect Wichita and Kansas City. They have food deserts. They have all the same stuff we have. They have drug problems. It's all how you're going to connect that with rural life and how we're going to make this all sustainable.
So you still want to do this?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm glad to do it.
I mean, banging on Don, I think you make a great point about banging on the table. It really is time to fight back in a real way. Obviously you always want to do it tactfully, and if you don't agree with certain issues, I mean, not everybody's going to agree, but
Of course.
I mean, for me, it really is about like standing up in that ring and not only just taking the punches like I feel like the Democratic Party has the last couple of years, but to stand there and really just stay resolute in what you believe in.
I'd like to kind of just, I'd like to pull this thought in with my just closing thought, which is, in answer to the question of kind of bringing what Jerry, you were talking about being at the first district and being in Wilson, how conservative it is, and just the question of what do we do to get young people here? Mm-hmm. And one reason why I'm spending some of my effort to rebuild a county Democratic Party is I actually think one perception for the first district that hurts us for recruiting young people is the perception that only old conservative right wings live in for the first district. And I think that actually, and this just is my own harebrained theory, that for economic development and recruitment of new people, it's important to have at least an active, loyal opposition to that conservative party. Because if you go to a career fair and say it's in KU, and you say come work in Ellsworth, and they're like, well, I don't want to live with people who are completely politically opposed to everything I believe in. And the younger generation is, at this moment, extremely much more liberal than most. So, I mean, I think it's important to at least say, hey, Ellsworth County, we have an active Democratic Party. The first district, we have young people going after it, mixing it up and learning how to run for office. I think those are all good things for our neighborhood. So, let's, if you're a Facebook person, please follow our Hunt Us Down, or if you can't find the link, find me so you can at least follow and get updates for when stuff comes through, because I think we will get all the Senate candidates stopping through at some point. You can't campaign in Kansas without going through Ellsworth at some point. So I've reached out to them. They all have my number, and I've talked to all of them, and they know to find me. And so we'll throw something together and get them in here. As we finish up local elections, it won't be too long before we'll be looking for that one special person who wants to run for the 108th or who wants to do it. So help me recruit. If you find somebody who's got the time, energy, talent, or doesn't, or has two of those three things. Two of those things, yeah. Encourage them to come my way, and we'll put something together, because I think that there will be some opportunities to do that. And everyone stay, eat food, but ask more tough questions of Callie, and talk to each other. Thank you very much for coming.
That was a presentation by Callie Barnett, a candidate running to represent the Kansas 1st Congressional District in the U.S. House of Representatives. You're watching Salina Media Connection.